So, deadlines. Yeah. Personally, I hate them, and I'm sure many of you guys do as well. The reason for this is because I procrastinate, and so do you. And if you say you don't procrastinate, you're lying. Or you're still in elementary school or something. Now, I really don't mind homework as long as it's due the day after it's given, because that kind of homework usually takes less than 30 minutes to do, and I'm able to do it in class. My strategy is to do homework the second I get it, so I don't have to do it at home, and I can instead watch YouTube videos all day. The problem is, with longer projects, you can't do that. Say you have a project that will take you 3.5 hours to do, and you have 1 week to do it. A normal person would probably spread out the work, 30 minutes each day. You already know that the entire project will be done the night before it's due. One of the things that I hate about projects like this is that it always lingers over your head as that little bit of stress that you want to get rid of, but also want to avoid at all costs. It makes it feel like you have a lot more work to do than you really have, and every little bit of extra homework is like, oh my god, I already have a huge project to do, why do you give me homework? Even though I do the homework the next class period and it has no effect on the project. But this ramble has been pretty generic so far, so let's throw in a little story to spice things up a bit. So around 2 years ago, my social studies teacher assigned all of the 7th graders this wonderful thing known as the history fair, which is pretty much the science fair, just way more boring. We were given a topic and told to research a person who we found some sort of interest in. We had something like 4 months to make a website about that person, and right off the bat we were given about an hour and a half long introduction on how to properly cite our sources and stuff like that. We ended up having around 30 minutes of extra time afterwards to go find some sources and practice citing them. In that time period, I went ham. I ended up with around 12 sources, and I had managed to set up the base for my project. After that, things went downhill. Fast. Throughout the next 3.5 months, I did absolutely nothing. Every time I would think about the history fair, I would just tell myself that I'd already done a good portion of it and that I shouldn't worry. It came to the point where there was less than a week before the presentation, and I only had 30 minutes worth of work done. I decided to finally get to work, and I ended up spending around an hour and a half working on the website, and it ended up looking okay. It wasn't the best, but I thought I could get at least a B, which was fine by me, even though I care a lot about my grades. One day before the presentation, and I finally broke. I had this little train crash in my brain that just said, you had 4 months to work on this project. Your 2 hours of work that you did are probably going to fail you. I ended up staying awake until 1 AM working on it, which doesn't seem that bad, but as a 12-year-old, I didn't handle it very well. It came time for us to present, and I actually did pretty good, believe it or not. So good, in fact, that I made it to the regional competition. They called out the names of the 30 or so people who made it, and the second they got to my name, it dawned on me what I was getting into. We were given an additional 2 months to improve our projects, and I sort of had the idea that I just wouldn't work on it. I was done with this disaster of a project and didn't want anything to do with it, so I just tried to forget about it and go on with my life. One day before the regional competition, and I broke again. I was forcing myself not to do anything. I didn't want to win, because if I won, I would go to the state competition, and I was having none of it. In comes the second train disaster. I ended up spending another few hours working on the project, and it comes time for me to present. I open up my project, and I forgot to freaking save. Alright, that last part of the story was sort of a lie. In reality, I did manage to save most of what I did, but I lost around a third of it. Thankfully, that little bit that I didn't save was actually pretty important to the project and is probably the reason I didn't make it to state. Moral of the story, don't be a stupid. Okay, bye.